he went to a work site for a cathedral. And in Europe, those years, cathedral was the best architect, the best minds did cathedral. Remember, the Pope was in charge of the whole of Europe. So if you really want to see the best mind of that century, you go to see a cathedral. And I've gone to Europe. When you ask, like I was in Finland, and over the weekend when they want to take me, they take me to see a cathedral that was built 1500, So this guy was a tourist, and he went to a construction site, and he found a guy laying bricks, so the story goes. And with the site being just full of activity everywhere, he just picked one guy laying bricks and asked him, "What are you doing?" The guy continued working, disinterested, and said, in other words, "Can't you see what I'm doing? I'm laying bricks, putting one brick on top of another." Let me ask you the question. That guy in the morning, do you think he is very excited about going to lay bricks? Because you see, the idea is, I'm here only to make money. Because I don't see what I'm doing except putting one brick on top of another. And my friend, you may be here, and you are the type of laying bricks. What do? I teach you the students economics. Is that so? That is laying bricks. All you can think is to talk about the theory of demand and supply as an economics teacher, then basically you are laying bricks. And you need to understand, in a crisis, the bricklayers drop off. Because they don't see, why should I struggle? Why should I risk my life? Now this thing is collapsing. It will not collapse with me. I can see St. Paul's is going nowhere. I will not go nowhere with it. Because he's here to make money. He is here to lay bricks. One of the most important things you can do as a supervisor is to assist your workers to move away from that level. Of course, you have to start with yourself. Ask yourself, why do I teach economics? Rather than, what do I do? You answer the question, why? This first guy could not answer the question of why. He was so interested in what he is doing. And those people are there. You can find somebody on them who is a gardener. And what do? Cut grass. You can tell grass cut by this type of people because the grass will be short, but without a formula. The way he's doing your garden, but there is no, he can't suggest, he can't change, after all, the job you gave me is to cut grass. And whether you are a professor or you are a gardener, the moment your attitude is, what am I? I'm employed to do this. And you end up doing it, you'll be in trouble. That's why one of the most important things in a job description is not the task, but the purpose. Why does the job exist? And it's the type of thing, if you are getting a new employee, don't concentrate on the tasks. Once he understands purpose, he can even create his own task. So the most important thing, if you really want a guy who can survive a crisis, is the purpose. Why does the job exist? Now, anyway, he went to another section of the construction site. The cathedral is very big, and he found another guy. And again, he was doing the same thing. He asked him, "What are you doing?" The guy said, "I am building a cathedral." He actually stood up to look at the person asking. "I am building a cathedral." They are doing the same thing, but this second guy does not see laying bricks. He looked at the completed building. Do you see the difference? Mm-hmm. He is seeing a cathedral. And a cathedral, there would be only one cathedral per country. It's a big thing. And he's thinking, when I'm a grandfather, I'll be telling my grandchildren, "You see that cathedral?" I was one of the people who built it. He is excited, although he's only putting one stone on top of another. Now it has changed. He is looking at the completed. He can see why he is doing and what the impact will be once it's actually complete. And anybody who wants to take people through a crisis must move away from the laying of bricks to the building of a cathedral. People must see how their cogs and nuts add up to the finished car. And that's unfortunately a lot of us, as supervisors, we don't spend our time on that. We don't want to explain. It takes time. We don't want to explain to the new worker exactly why his work is so important. It's not just a call. It's a if you miss it, there'll be trouble. People must learn to see that what they are doing will influence the top. Like the guy at the gate. The guy at the gate is the one who makes this university move. You can be having a very good student, but the way he is treated at the gate, he goes to another campus. Is that possible? So if the guy at the gate thinks, what is your job? Opening and closing. If he can't see that he is a marketing agent of the university, the gate man is a marketing agent. If he can't see that, he will continue opening and closing. So it's the responsibility of whoever is in charge of security here to get the gate man to understand he is not a closer of gates. He is a marketing agent. Now, anyway, I don't have enough time, 1 hour is too short. But it's important to understand that if you really are going to work in a crisis, you must move away from laying a break to the complete thing. And even yourself, you must ask yourself, exactly what am I doing in St. Paul's? Even the vision itself must always have to look at the finished product. You know, if you're a teacher and you're just teaching students economics, you teach them and you'll pass. But do you realize that one of them could be the future Ruto, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, our president, we are told, went to our Wareng, never heard of the school. But he's a president, am I right? Mm-hmm. Now, once you are in our Wareng's child, and you are not in Kapsabet boys, the big names, people can't see you going anywhere. What about if a teacher was to notice, this from one boy, I am preparing him to be the future president. Do you know everything will change? Yeah, you get a child, you are teaching a nursery, and they don't even know how to remove the makamasi from their nose. Then, this guy is the future president. You will deal with them differently. That's why it's a very important concept to understand, moving a guy to see him, not what it is now, but what he will become. From laying bricks to building cathedrals. And that's what, and of course nobody else can do it for you. In your own department, you must ask yourself, why is this department so important? Why should it not be removed out of the St. Paul's? What is it doing in terms of vision of the university? How come the university can't exist? Or they cannot realize their vision without my department? Once that is answered, then the what will be dealt with very easily. But you have not heard all. This guy went to a third section of the cathedral, and he asked the person, what are you doing? He was doing exactly the same thing. The guy stood up, started smiling, and said, I'm depopulating hell in order to populate heaven. This guy is not doing a cathedral. He is seeing the bishop evangelizing. And drunkards changing, everybody changing. After this cathedral is complete, this town will change. What do you think of the three guys? The layer of bricks, the builder of the cathedral, or the guy who feels he is in ministry? He is serving God. He is populating heaven. Which of them will wake up earlier in the morning? The first, the second, or the third? The third. So and for us as Christians, that's an area we miss. Because you teach in a Christian university, but it's teaching exactly the same as a public university. Economics is economics. Not understanding one of the deliverable out of a Christian university is producing people who do ministry. I have come with all my 26 books. I want to donate them to the university. I don't know who is in charge. And one of the books I have written, maybe if I go that route, I'll take too long. You read it for yourself. But one of the things I really want to communicate is that idea of a person who really understands how to turn or how to do his job as ministry. Because I think that's very important. Because I've been preaching for all these many years. The first time I was invited to preach in a campus in September 77. So at least for the last 46 years, I'm preaching in a campus or another. Because of that, everyone keeps asking, when are you becoming a pastor? Because in their own mind, I should not be working for Shell. I should become a pastor. But I saw shell work and serving God. In 1988, I went for a course in London, and we were about 14 countries in the in the course. And you know something? That's when I discovered in 1998 that most of Europe is Kafiri. I was with Fruitful. We were in the Shell Training Center. I was with them talking about Jesus. They said, "Who is that?" I thought they are joking. Then in the morning, on the first day, we were thinking about 3 weeks. In the morning, that was a Dutch guy. He came to our city and said, "John, I can see what you're about. You know, in my room there is a Bible." I said, "You have never had a Bible?" "No, I've not had a Bible." So I asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm a Christian." "How can you be a Christian who has never seen a Bible?" He said, "I'm a Christian, but I don't go to church, but I belong to the church." I said, "How can you be going to church how can you belong to church and you don't go there?" He told me, in Holland, it's very good to be a member of the church because what you give to the church is tax deducted. And number two, if you belong to a church, they will baptize your children, they will marry them, and they will bury you. Free of charge. So you are getting return on. But I said, surely, how will the money reach the pastor? He said, it's not us who go to church. The pastor moves around the vicinity, collecting during the week, collecting the offering. So the church is very rich, but nobody turns up on Sunday. Now I asked myself, I had not imagined that you can be in Europe, they are the ones who brought us Christianity, and you have absolutely no idea. It's not that you are refusing Jesus. You have never heard. At breakfast he told me, there was this guy called Moses, and another guy called Jesus. I looked through the Bible. I said, wait a minute, you are calling Jesus a guy? I of course, now I learned later. It's not that they are refusing, nobody has taught them. So you need to understand, from that moment, I realized anytime I'm working with an expatriate, the reason I'm in Shell is to be the vehicle for them to know Jesus. And initially I could be just doing a job, but I realized I'm located in Shell for purpose of sharing my faith with others, whether Africans or Europeans. I must share with them. So I am actually doing missionary work. I'm not simply selling petrol. I'm serving God. Now, until you can get yourself to see how what they do is serving God, your motivational level will always be limited. Don't force it if he's actually serving the devil, tell him. But if you can see what he's doing is serving God, if you can get him to see it and accept it, then during a crisis, he will survive. Because he knows he's serving God and God will protect him. He will have the courage to stay in it. And I thought that's something we have to work on. Because like now, you can you find some churches begin a school, an academy or whatever. But if you go to the teachers, the same way they were teaching at a TSC, it's the same way they teach. There is no difference. But mathematics is, surely there must be a way of teaching mathematics that helps the child to know the God who created mathematics. Am I communicating? And unfortunately, because they're not taught in college, it will be a responsibility of the church to convert the mathematics teacher to a way of teaching mathematics that honors God. And I'm talking about that school. It's the same thing with St. Paul's. Invite an economics lecturer, I'm using you as an example, until you can work on him to convert him from a teacher of economics to an evangelist through economics. See the change? And if you don't, and by the way, you earn your salary even if you don't, but you will never have the motivation. I know this because I became 55 1907, and just about the time I'm leaving, it's called post-election violence, isn't it? But the truth is, it was even there before the elections. So, but people, it's more courteous to call it post, although it happened even earlier. And that caused a crisis for our industry. And because I was in charge of logistics, my Musuku boss said, you can't go. We are giving you a contract to remain behind. Because it was very difficult to work in logistics. They wanted to ban, and a tanker was much easier to ban. Because you see, it has its own fuel, isn't it? Set it on fire. And they set up quite a few. So my transporters started resisting. At the same time, hospitals were running out of boiler oil. And without boiler oil, the theater will be in trouble. So people are crying. Of course, even Kaguta Museveni called Kibaki, because now no vehicle could go to Uganda. So it has to remain behind. And I still remember talking to my depot manager in Nairobi, because that time Nairobi was terrible. I'm telling him, we have to reopen the depot. And he said, sure, Mr. Ngara, you don't want us to die. No, I say, we are dealing with people dying in hospitals. Now it's nothing to do with money. We are doing it as ministry. Find a way of coming to the depot. And that young man is now currently the CEO of Vivo. Share sold to a company called Vivo. And he's now currently the CEO. The guy I was talking to was a manager in Nairobi Terminal. I told him, where are you? I'm on Thika Road. I told him, you come through the museum, through Uhuru Highway, and see there is a way you can penetrate the depot because it's in the industrial area. So the phone had come that time, so I kept calling him. Oh, I'm now in General Motors. Finally, I'm in the depot. He said, I'm in the depot, but I have no tankers. It was now my job to convince, the same I had convinced my manager, to convince the transporters that there is a crisis and serving God means taking the risk. Even if the tanker, and if it's banned, insurance can't pay. You know that. So it's a serious matter. And so a few tankers agreed to come. And we started flowing. Of course, our security department was working. They were in touch with the army, and our trucks were at the escort. And Shell was the first one to deliver in Kampala within a few days. Why? We are dealing with a crisis, but we are not operating at computing a cathedral. We are operating at serving God. I didn't want to hear people are dying, and I'm in charge of logistics because fuel is lacking in hospitals. So you can see how it changes. I hope I'm communicating. So you need to understand that if we are going to deal with a crisis, you must find a way of finding out, does my job really serve the Lord? When you talk about being fruitful in your workplace, I think there are three things you should ask yourself. If you ask, am I fruitful in my workplace? The first one is, how has your life contributed to the employer's bottom line? Because the employer wants something, isn't it? So you must ask yourself, by doing the head of department, is it bringing more students? Is it operating at a lower cost? Is it contributing to St. Paul's bottom line or not? That's important. Because you might think of evangelizing and in the process forget that for the invited to survive, it must make ends meet, isn't it? So you need to ask yourself, I've been the head of department 2 years. What have I done that can say I contributed to the ability of St. Paul's to survive economic crisis? If you can't see anything, you need to start suspecting you are in the wrong place, or you are the wrong person. I don't know which is which. You must, as a Christian and a professional, you must be able to answer the question: how are you contributing? And the two methods is: are you increasing sales volume, or are you reducing costs? Those are the two major activities that can help you that way. So, and that's important. We must answer that question. The second question you must answer is, how has your being in this place developed colleagues? In other words, one of your job here is to make others more productive. So in which way have you yourself helped to develop other people? Do you even see it as your responsibility? One of the things now in retirement, I happen to be the founding chairman of the Shell Pension Association, because we formed it after Shell sold, and we were not sure about who we were. So we formed the association, registered it, and I was the founding chairman. I'm still chairman, but I'm trying to look for ways of retiring out of it. But one of the things that excites me is to meet those wazes that were working under me in Kisumu. And they jump on me, excited. Why? Because when I worked there, I did something that helped to develop them. I still remember one lady when I could predict that with the time, that was before she went paperless society. I could see the way of secretary's job might disappear. So I told my secretary, do you know it would be good if you knew something else? I was thinking about her. and her development. Do you see there's something you could do differently? I said, what are you saying, Mr. Nana? I said, for example, that cash office is not that technical. If you went there, you can be both a secretary and a cashier. Next time a cashier is on leave, you will leave. So you end up with 2 careers. Says, me, I don't like money, I don't work in money. Mr. Nana, don't make me go to that office, it's a frightening place. And I could see basically, she's a good girl, she works well, but when secretary disappears, she also disappears, she has children. So I actually went to the cash box, when the cashier was not there, to sit with her, for us to do the job together. Say, you see, you can do it? Yes. And when you do it, ask so-and-so to assist you and check you out. So in no time, the next time the cashier was on leave, she became the cashier. Sure enough, from being in charge of Western Kenya, I became the national distribution manager now. And so I was still going to Kisumu. And then the pipeline. But the pipeline was extended to Kisumu when I was now the manager, the distribution manager. And sure enough, we had to close our depot. Because the pipeline came, and instead of connecting us, they actually ended up building their own depot. And you are told, if you want fuel, you have to take it from there. So they gave us offices. And then now you didn't require a lot of staff. You didn't have a manager there. So you required a cashier who can also type. And my friend Margaret became qualified. Many years later, I would go there. When everybody else was fired, she was still there until retirement. Can you see how excited she is to see me? Because you see, it has nothing to do with Shell. If you're a Christian, it's your responsibility to develop others. And you must ask yourself, you have worked here for 5 years. Who have you developed? Whose weakness did you notice and help to deal with it? Either to remove it or to teach him how to overcome the weakness so that they are able to be more productive than they have been. It's not just for the good of St. Paul's, although it will be good for St. Paul's, it's also good for the person. So that's what we are talking about. If you really are going to say, I'm a Christian professional serving God, you must show how your life is positively affecting the people working above you, working as your colleagues, and working under you. And that in the process, you also are helping your employer. Thirdly, ask yourself, how has my year or my quarter, whatever the period you are assessing, honored God? Has it brought anybody closer to the kingdom of God? Because that's your responsibility. Somebody is here and they are not born again. You don't have to preach to them. You don't stand in the pulpit to talk to them. But the way you relate with them, they will soon want to know, why are you different from others? Why are your boss very different from others? In answer to that question, you end up, and I've discovered that because when I stopped working in one place where I know how to do it, and I became a consultant, this place you go for short stints, and you don't ever have enough time to lead somebody to the Lord. But how cheated I was, because I just went to do another industry workshop. During the workshop, people see me, of course they have no idea I'm saved. I'm just teaching them technical things. And then, one young man comes and says, can you be my mentor? It's a new term. In our time, there was no word like mentor. Can you be my mentor? I said, let's not talk now. May I buy you a cup of tea? Of course, the young man is willing to get a free cup of tea. So we go for a cup of tea. And I tell him, can you repeat what you want? One of them told you, they are very ambitious. I would like to be like you, because by the time I retired, I was in top leadership of Shell in Kenya. And I like to be like you, but by the age of 40. I was not in 50s like me. Now, by the age of 40. So I told him, maybe in the workshop I didn't quite tell you everything. The reason I made it is because I knew Jesus. He helped me. So that's the truth. I could see God's hand in the process of my career development. So to cheat you that you can be like me without Jesus, I will not be honest. But if you allowed Jesus to lead your life, and you therefore worked like you are working for him, you will go where the places you are going. And the young man said, can you pray for me now? You are in a restaurant, you are in a Java. And I prayed for him. Today he is walking with the Lord. I write a weekly article every week. It's in my website called www.johnganga.org if you're interested in topics. and I write an article every week. That boy who got saved then is my editor. Now, you need to understand, and you're talking about you just meet somebody in a petroleum workshop. So it's important to understand there are things you can do. And you need, for you to be able to go through the crisis, assured God is with you, you must ask yourself, what are you doing? Because all of us are called. If you read my book, The Christian Professional, Leading the Marketplace, I try to emphasize, nobody should work without the call of God. No pastor say, I was called. Lecturer should also say, I was called. I don't know where they got the impression that only pastors are called. If you are truly a Christian, don't do a job you are not yet called. You need to be able to say, I'm doing this because I'm under God's call. And the moment you sense, I'm not just working for Shell, I'm called by God, you work differently from the rest of the people. Would you agree with me? And that will be something that's important for us to spend. So if you really are working with a team of people, operating number one at the level of depopulating hell, I'm sure you will start understanding how important it is that God is with you in whatever area you are actually involved in. Let me read something I want to quote from Reverend John Mark O'Doul, talking about going through a crisis. Fear can be devastating. Why? Because it breeds more fear. And a crisis causes you fear, I want to add. And the most insidious thing about fear is its ability to exaggerate. As a young Christian, some preacher once said to me, the devil comes to every Christian with three things: a problem, a mirror, and a magnifying glass. He throws problems your way, then you begin to panic. Then he pulls a magnifying glass to show you how big the problem is, and you now panic more. Then he gives you a mirror to show you how miserable you look and tells you how you never make it through. That makes you more fearful, scared, and harassed. C. Everett Kopp, former Surgeon General of the United States, observed, people just have an inappropriate sense of what is dangerous. Makes it bigger than it is, more dangerous than it is, more devastating than it really is. Do you fear flying? We are looking for an example, or rather, John Mark is looking for an example. Do you fear flying? The fact is, you are more likely to die from choking on a piece of food than in a commercial airline crash. Yet you don't fear eating. You have just been eating. But you could die out of eating. By the way, I know that because we buried somebody the other day. I know that in May, there's a burial in Kinangop. I come from Kinangop. I know that the guy he tried to eat something, he's shocked. They tried everything, and by the time they were trying to get it out, by the time he reached the hospital, he was dead. And it was very embarrassing to say what killed him, that he just could not swallow. And he's an adult, around 40 years. So this is a real... So here you can see, the real killer, you don't fear. Yet you fear the other one. Are you afraid of dying in a robbery? You are twice as likely to be killed playing a sport than you are to be stabbed to death by a stranger. Are you afraid of sharks? Every year, farmyard pigs slay more people than sharks do. Are you worried about having surgery? You are 16 times more likely to die in a car crash than you are from surgical complication. Symptoms to the things we fear come to pass. In our minds, we conceive coming disasters that will likely never happen. And when they don't occur, we think, that was a close one. The truth is, our thoughts were the only things creating potential danger for us. Fear grows based on these three things. Number one, what you feed it on. The more you think about it, the more it grows. Number two, the more you compare yourself with your previous self or with others. The mirror syndrome. Number three, the more you less see your ability to make it through, the less you hear God's promise to make it through, the less you have faith, God can help you to make it through. So whatever it is, whether it's a personal fear, or it's a departmental fear, or it is university-wide fear, or it's a family fear, always ask yourself, are the 3 items the devil is giving you the ones you want to use in order to assess? It's important to assess the risk, but sometimes you must, and that's a topic we can cover another day, it's not enough to know there is a risk. You must size your risk. How do you size risks? By looking at probability, that's important, but looking at the consequence. I work for industry, it's a dangerous industry, so we always have to be trained on how to assess risk. In other words, I keep walking below this. Do you know this thing could drop on me? Because somebody is the one who screwed the thing. Am I right? What about if I forgot to screw it and I keep walking here? There's a likelihood the thing could fall on me. But then, even if it fell, I can't die. I'll just remove it and put it down. So the risk can be very high in terms of likelihood, but very low on consequence. So for you to assess risk, don't just, because a lot of people are spending all their time on risks that have low consequence. Don't spend all your time on it. And it will be important that you get that message. The next thing I want us to talk about is the importance that even if you sort yourself out, if the people working with you are negative, seeing many fears, they will slow you down. So you must learn about how to work in a team. Your team members will love each other. If you are going to have a successful team, you must help your team to love each other. And empowered people will own and be responsible for projects and for their work process. And in the process, your business will soar. So several things you have to ask yourself in your team, department, or whoever you are leading. Do people like each other? It's your responsibility to find a way. Not of them, I don't want to use love, it's too strong, like each other. Sometimes it's tolerate each other. But they must know how to work with one another. If people start thinking how to undercut each other, will the department perform? It's the responsibility of any supervisor to work on it. Notice it? Now, and it's very easy to do. In something, you are a leader in a department, you call a department meeting. When Kamau says something, Otieno must oppose it. The first time, don't make conclusion. When it happens 3 times, there's a problem between Kamau and Otieno. It's your responsibility to find out how to make the two at least tolerate each other. Step 1. Finally like each other. If you allow it to continue, they will never perform. Your department will suffer. And that's what teamwork is all about. The team leader must find a way of the people at least liking each other. And then in the process, you must help them to own the project, to feel this is not Kamau's project, it's our project. So even if I don't like Kamau, for the sake of the project, I must tolerate him. But better, of course, is if you like them. And therefore, all of us must feel responsible for the project, and that will be important. Belonging to a team, in the broadest sense, is a result of feeling part of something larger than yourself. It has a lot to do with your understanding of the mission or objective of the organization, and I've talked about that. You contribute to the overall success of the organization in a team-oriented environment, and you work with the fellow members of the organization to produce the vision, the result. Even though you have a specific job function and you belong to a specific department, you are united with other departments, other organization members to accomplish the overall objective. The bigger picture drives your actions. Your functions exist to serve the bigger picture. How do you get a department to know that they should worry that the other department also should work well? How can you work? And that's why I recommend a service level agreement, where we are both working to help each other. I have other things I wanted to say, but I don't think there is time to talk about it. Ever thought about this? No matter how many times the teeth bite the tongue, does that happen? Yeah. They still stay together in one mouth. You know, sometimes you feel terrible. How can you tell people that you are in pain because your teeth accidentally were biting your tongue? Has that ever happened to somebody? It has happened to me. Now, but they still stay together. That's the spirit of forgiveness. Maybe the tongue forgives the tongue many times. So if you are going to work in a team, in this university or in our department or in our families, we must know when the teeth has bitten the tongue, they still must forgive each other and stay together. That's what we are talking about team. Even though the eyes don't see each other, I wonder that is true. One eye has never seen the other. They see things together. Blink simultaneously. They also cry together, isn't it? Can one eye cry without the other one? They cry together. That is called unity. I don't know whether you agree it is unity. May the Lord grant us all the spirit of forgiveness and togetherness in order to work as a team. You know, I see in a university 3 teams. One is a team called the University Council. The other one is called the University Management, Senate and Management. And the other one are staff members. These are 3 different teams. For St. Paul's success, each must play, but as a united team. Then one with the other. Then all together as one team. In other words, you must be united as whether you are council or management or staff, then you must work with one another. Then we all must see ourselves working together so that we are not seen as separate people. You know, teamwork enables you to accomplish tasks faster and more efficiently than tackling projects individually. I'm sure you have heard of the saying, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to make real impact, long-term impact, work with others. And I think that will be important. Teamwork allows staff to work according to levels of interest in the project at hand, which positively influences the efficiency or speed of the output in accomplishing the task. You know, one of the things I found interesting, in the bank, I was a project officer, and I enjoyed the job because most of it I did alone. I was writing project papers. I ask questions, I research, I prepare a paper, it becomes a board paper after my boss has approved. I came to share and I was given the people I told you I was in charge of. And then, when they fail, I'm held. I thought it's very unfair. I feel like telling my boss, there's this guy, he is useless. Let's fire him. And I realize I don't have the power to fire. So you have to find a way of working with him in the short term. Because you must accomplish. And his failure becomes your failure. It's very, very important to understand in the process that you must help your staff. And by the way, that one is a big problem. Because if, for example, this university fails, the vice chancellor will be held accountable. Am I right? Yet if truth be told, he doesn't even know what you are doing yourself. He doesn't go to every department, does he? So it's important. His biggest responsibility is to motivate everybody working here to own up their area as part of the wider group. You know, cooperating together on various tasks reduces workloads for employees by enabling them to share responsibility or ideas. This allows each team member to be thorough in the completion of their assigned roles. And we could go on. Why teamwork? There's increased accountability, learning opportunities, and we could go on. I just want to say, one of the things that can help your team to work better is listening. And I'm now talking about communication. There are people who they give short instructions. And they feel like if I ask you a question, like I'm daft. And so you end up with people doing assignments, and when they are finished, you are not happy with the results. But the truth is, you are the one who never communicated. But there's another group that are unable to listen. And you know, sometimes you are taught how to talk, but you're never taught how to listen. I found this interesting. Level 1 listening is listening to, internal listening. At this level, when we listen to others, we mostly listen to our inner dialogue, thoughts, feelings, and what we plan to say once the other person has finished speaking. We focus on ourselves, our conclusions, our thoughts about the person, subject, conversation, and what the subject means to me. Unfortunately, most listening happens at this level where it tends to be all about us. We hardly hear what we wanted to hear. No communication happens. In other words, as you are talking to your subordinate, he is busy thinking what he will tell you. So in the end, he doesn't hear what he keeps saying. I beg your pardon. The reason he is begging your pardon is he was actually not listening. He was too busy trying to think, how will I reply? One of the reasons for that is a threatening boss. See, hey, they want to fire me. Now, so he is not listening. He is trying to prepare how to defend himself. So any boss who frightens people is the one who harvests a failed task. Because the man was not listening. That's what he's going, listening to sell. You are listening, you are trying to work on your own. And all of us sometimes suffer from that, isn't it? If your spouse misunderstood you last week, even now you are preparing how to reply. So she tells the story about what your mother said. In the end, he said, I can remember her mentioning my mother. What was it about? You are not listening. So it's important to understand this listening too happens to all of us, but the end result is that there is no communication. So how do you deal with it? By creating friendship, removing threats, and working with the people. That does not mean you cannot fire them if they fail, but you need to create such a system that even when the person is fired, he will ask you, where is the letter? When is the letter coming? Because he knows the system is fair, it is just, and he brought it to himself. I did that when my children were young. And they keep reminding me, I had a belt for dealing with misdemeanor. So when they were now in primary, they were old enough to negotiate. We negotiated. If you do this, if you are told by your mother to do something you don't do, two belts. If you insult somebody, 3 belts. No, two. They negotiated. And of course, since nobody is being punished. It was just a joke, isn't it? But we agreed. So now, when they were caught doing something, they say, Papa, finish quickly. Because they know they will go through it. The earlier, the better. And it's important to understand when you work with your staff, and they know there will be no time you will do something until, first of all, it's agreed. You don't punish people for that thing they never agreed up front. You allow them, you forgive them. But if they do something after you have agreed, you have already agreed in advance how that type of any issue can be sorted out. That kind of climate allows them to listen to you without listening to themselves. Internal listening. The next one, that next level 2, is listening for. Instead of listening to, listening for. That's what we are calling focused listening. At this level, we begin to authentically listen as we focus on what the other person is saying. We lock into the dialogue and suppress our temptation to correct. You feel like correcting, you say, no, let me wait and listen. Give our opinion. Of course, you have an opinion, but you say not yet. Give advice or offer another perspective as soon as they finish. We become truly present and give the other person the gift of being understood. In other words, if you're in your department, your staff feel understood. By then, you don't have to agree with them, but they feel understood. It will create a communication system that allows teamwork. If they don't feel misunderstood, if they feel misunderstood, there'll be trouble. I'm sure you remember, especially those of us who went to school in the colonial era, the steak was the normal thing. I don't know if it's still the steak is the normal thing. But the thing that will make a boy cry is to be beaten for something they never did. Do you remember? Somehow, if you are beaten for what you deserve, you are ready for it. But when somebody starts, and them teachers are like that, they punish everybody, and you know you did not do it. You try to explain, they don't even want to hear. So you need to understand the kind of, you really want to create teamwork that can go through a crisis. People must understand clearly that you are listening to them until you understand them. Listening for understanding rather than for defense. And some bosses fail to listen, some staff fail to listen, and you know, all of us are bosses and subordinates. Am I right? Because the VC has to report to the council. So everybody is somebody's subordinate. So you must learn how to deal with that. So when you are listening, you can understand. Even if you now disagree with me. And that's why normally the recommendation is, I was taken by Shell to a negotiating course because of negotiating big contracts. So they took us for a course. And they taught us, if you really want to deal with people, you must begin where they stop saying, is this what I hear you saying? Then you now comment. Once they feel understood, they are ready to listen to you. If they feel you are on the defensive, they will not listen to what you are saying. So the contract will take longer to be sorted out. So it's important to understand how critical this element of listening actually is. But listening level 3 is listening with. Intuitive listening. At this level, we pay attention to what is not being said through these cues. Inflection, pauses, changes of tone, energy, the eyes, and the body language. Now that the verbal communication, you are watching for it. You are not there where you're just listening. It's like you are talking through him. And you are empathetic. And I think that will be very important. We listen with our gut and allow intuition to speak to our souls. So it's like we are walking with you. The fourth level of listening is listening to the Holy Spirit. This is the deepest level where we we intersect what the person is saying, or even what he's not saying, with an openness to what the Spirit of God is saying to us. You are listening to him, and that's very important, even when you're listening to a sermon. You are listening to him, but you're also listening to the Holy Spirit, who knows that what that guy is saying is actually true. You have gone through it. This level requires great discipline and focus. We yet provides a way to become conduits of God's grace to others. Let me ask you, at which level do you usually listen? What tips have you discovered that help you to listen at higher levels? Now, I don't think we have the time to deal with it, but as a whole group, let's ask, what are the issues that make teamwork difficult in your organization, and how can they be resolved? Okay, you go to your group, because maybe you don't want to be overheard by the Vice Chancellor. So you go to your groups, and I'm giving you only 5 minutes to go through it. There will be no reporting. It's just for your own learning. So the questions are there. My objective in this is hoping to create better teamwork, as you are. So, in the question number 2, what are the issues that make teamwork difficult in your department, and how can they be resolved? So we are now not discussing an academic subject. We are talking about your own team. That's why I told you to sit together. Please point out, what are the things, we are talking about the importance of teamwork, especially in handling at turbulent times. What is it, I'm asking, in your team, things that are difficult and you can resolve them? What are the issues that make teamwork difficult in your organization? How can they be resolved? So, let me give 5 minutes. There will be no reporting, so you don't have to appoint. But at least you must have an answer, at least one answer per question.